What's up, y'all? Hey, my name is Donald Hinton. This is a picture of me in 2019, and this is a current picture of me. In 2019, I was sitting in a federal prison cell because I wanted to do some dumb stuff. And today, I currently own 15 properties. I'm from a small town called Alton, Illinois. And this is a picture of me with some of my family. RIP Marcel, man. This is my mom, my aunties, and them, and me as a baby, the cute little baby up there. And this is a picture of me when I was 12. And I grew up without a father. See, my dad did 20 years in prison because he sold drugs. And by me seeing that growing up, my auntie been to federal prison, my grandpa been to federal prison. My dad was currently in federal prison. I naturally became a product of my environment. I seen the rappers doing it. I seen the guys in the streets doing it. So I naturally wanted to be like what I saw. If you don't see nothing new, if you in this fishbowl and you can't see nothing new, then you going to eventually end up just like everybody else in the fishbowl. And that's what I did. I wanted the cars and the money and stuff, and I got it. But what they don't tell you is what come with it. And what come with it is prison. So I ended up like the rest of those guys in prison. I ended up doing 2 years in the state prison, and I ended up doing 6 years in the federal prison for guns and drugs. And while in prison, they don't tell you in the rap lyrics that you're going to have to watch your kids grow up in pictures and things like that. So that's one of the things that they don't tell you that's really detrimental. And this right here, this is the day that changed my life. See, this is a picture of me visiting my dad in the same exact prison that my son came to visit me at. This is in Oxford, Wisconsin. And this day is the day that changed my life. I went back to my cell, I broke down, and I started crying. And I ain't talking about no little couple tears dripping. No, I broke down and I cried. And the reason I cried was because if I didn't change, if I didn't do something different, my son would be in the exact same prison that me and my dad and my grandpa went to, right? So if I didn't change, I couldn't break that cycle. So I put down all of the James Patterson books. I ended up getting away from the TV, watching dumb stuff that's gonna dumb me down, dub and hip hop and things like that that have no value in your life. Get away from that stuff, and I changed. I ended up reading books that's gonna really help me. So, contrary to belief, it's a lot of people in prison that did bad things, but they don't want to see you there. So, it's doctors there, it's lawyers and bankers, and all of these guys in prison. But they are not sitting around teaching you crime and how to do the things that they did. They teaching you the right way, the legit way to get some money. And those is the people that I sat around, I listened to, I learned from because those is the people that I wanted to be like when I got out. So I was a store man in prison. I saved all of my money. I worked at Unicor. Contrary to what you think, it is still prison slavery going on. And these guys is in here working for $2, $3 a day, an hour. You know what I mean? And those jobs are the jobs that potentially help you when you get out. So I ended up saving some money. I saved about $10,000 when I got out. And I got dropped off in a city where I didn't know nobody. And the reason I got dropped off in this city was because if I went back to the same city that I caught my case in, then I would end up doing the same thing. You got to get out of that environment to grow. Just like a seed. If you keep a seed on the counter, the seed will never grow into what it's potentially supposed to be, which is an apple tree, right? If you keep it on the counter, out of his natural environment, it will never grow. So I ended up moving and I grew and I talked to the only person that I knew at the time, which was my landlord. And I asked him, did he have a property that he wanted to sell? And he ended up selling me this duplex. So I lived in one and I rented out the other. And that helped me save money. By me doing that, I ended up buying another one and another one. And what that teaches you is that you don't have to work for money. You need your money to work for you. So by me doing this, I was living the life. I was buying expensive cars and things like that, and it was the time of my life, should I say, because I was actually implementing all of the things that I read about, and it was working, right? So I started partying, and I almost lost it all. I ended up catching a DUI and going to jail because of it. See, recidivism is real. And the reason most people go back to prison after they get out is because they don't have a plan. Their plan is not something that's beneficial, so they're just going along with life. I had a plan to get into real estate and start investing, and that's what I did. But after I accomplished those goals, I fell off track because my plan had been reached, and it wasn't another bigger plan. So that's the key to understanding why some people go back and some people don't, because of that plan. So I ended up getting sober, and while I was in there, I ended up turning my lemons into lemonade. I ended up writing a book, From Prison to Property, talking about all of the things that helped me get into real estate. At this time, I only have 4 properties, but it was enough to understand the basics of how to get into real estate. So I wrote a book. I teach this stuff often, and it's my next big reason. Like I said, I went back to prison because I didn't have a reason. I didn't have a big enough goal. So I was stagnant. I was chilling. I was just living life. But now my goal is so much bigger and I understand it. And that's what I'm here today to teach you about. Real estate 101. So everybody needs a place to live, and you gonna need a place to live 15 years from now. So why not live for free? Why not own the place that you live at? It's some people don't want to just go through the hassle, or some people think that they might not be able to do it, and it's a lot of myths around it. Like, basically, you need a license to get into real estate. No, you don't need a license to get into real estate. The thing a realtor license gets you is access to the MLS. And that's access to hundreds and thousands of properties that's being sold. But if you understand what you're doing, you don't need access to all of those properties. You need access to one that you can actually create income off of. And that's what I'm here to teach you about, creating income. So no license is needed. I bought this property 5 months after I got out of prison. I didn't have a license. So that's one of the myths that I want to debunk right now, is you don't need a license. The next myth is you need good credit. You don't always need good credit. See, if you have good credit, you can get better interest rates when you go into a bank and things like that. But it's not necessarily needed. It's ways around that also. And the way around that is to get a cosigner. I had decent credit when I got out of prison, but it wasn't built out enough where a lender would be like, "Oh yeah, he credit worthy," because I didn't have 2 years on my job also. So no bank would lend to me. So I got a cosigner, and that was how I was able to acquire my second property. So credit, that's another myth that you think you need, but you really don't. You need a plan. The third one is you need a lot of money to get into real estate, which is not true. If you have good credit, then you can buy properties and you can use other people's money. So, what I mean by other people's money is a credit card. That's You can pull money off of a credit card and get a property. You can go into a bank and get a loan and get a property, right? Or you can use hard money and get a property. All of these things I implemented. This is called creative financing. I got creative and I ended up buying 11 properties with all of these things you see right here. I had no money out of my pocket. It was all other people money. So money is not one of the things you need. So let me talk about the different types of real estate for you. So you got single family real estate, and that's going to just be that nice, big, beautiful house. That house is a single family where one family can live in it. But a multifamily is like a duplex, a threeplex, a fourplex where multiple families live in it. These two types of properties you can get with an FHA loan, and we're gonna go more into that. But these is the main two properties that we want to focus on right now whenever we first getting into real estate. The next is a commercial property, and that's going to be your big buildings that you see downtown with 30 units and things like that, or those apartment complexes. That's commercial real estate, and that's more advanced, but it's all possible. So some of the different tactics that we gonna talk about is house hacking, and that's basically when you live for free. The next is the BRRRR strategy. That's when you buy, rehab, refinance, and then rent it out. And basically, it's like fix and flip. You get a mortgage, and then you rent that out for the tenant to pay back the mortgage. That's a BRRRR strategy. And then the next gonna be buy and hold. That's when you buy a property and you hold it forever, let your tenant pay it off, and you collect the cash flow from it. Cash flow is the extras coming in after you pay your mortgage. So, house hacking. House hacking is basically what I did when I got out of prison. I lived in one, and then the tenant paid most of the mortgage. So, my mortgage was like $1,000, and the tenant paid 700 of that thousand. So I'm living in a 3 bedroom apartment for $300 a month. How much money can you save if you didn't have to pay your rent? How much money could you stack up if your rent was just a little bit cheaper? All right. Our rent is our most biggest expense. So if we can get that down, we can get ahead in life and we won't have to live check to check. And that's what I want to convey in this message right here is living for free. The BRRRR strategy. A lot of people want to get in and fix and flip and things like that. And that's kind of like a BRRRR strategy. So when you do a BRRRR strategy, you buy, you rehab, you refinance it, then you rent it out, and then repeat the process. That's a BRRRR. That's what they call it. So this house right here, I bought it for 25,000. It was worth like 48,000, right? And I put down 5,000. So I had about 23,000 in equity. Equity is basically like money in the bank, and I owe 25,000, but it's worth 48,000. So a bank will lend 80% of the equity. So in this case, they gave me about $15,000 a loan, a home equity line of credit. That's a loan, kind of like a credit card that I have to pay back, but I can use it for whatever I want to. So I used it to fix up the property. And I did some of the repairs myself and I paid some people. But I would have saved more money if I did it all myself. But I was just getting into real estate. So I didn't know everything that I needed to do. I was just going with the flow, learning as I go, right? So I spent about 7,000 of that 15,000 to get it repaired. And then remember, I put $5,000 down. So I got back all of my money. I fixed up the house and now it's ready to rent out. And now the tenant will pay back the mortgage and the HELOC, right? So then I keep the rest of the money and I didn't come out of my pocket no money. That's called a BRRRR strategy. And that's the key to understanding how to get ahead in real estate. We not in it to make big chunks of money right now. We in it so we can live for free and make some extra cash flow so we don't have to work at Walmart when we 50 bagging groceries. So the third type is the buy and hold strategy. And over time, your tenant's gonna pay your mortgage and you collect cash flow and build equity. So with this right here, I bought these properties. Remember, I said I came nothing out of my pocket, right? So I bought these properties and my tenants pay down the mortgage every month. And I keep the little extras. I go in and I fix a stove, some pipes, whatever need to be fixed. But for the most part, I keep the rest of it. And that's paying down what I owe. And then it's also putting money in my pocket. So that's the long-term buy and hold. And the secret with that is to put it on Section 8. So you know that you're getting paid every month, tenants not coming with excuses and things like that. So though that's the best type in my opinion. So one of the questions is, where do I find the money at? All right. So you got investors. Investors is always looking for a deal so they can get a return on their money. And investors don't have to be institutions and things like that. An investor can be your friends, your family. You ask them for $2,000, tell them you're gonna give them back 2,500. If you have a plan and they know that you able to execute on this plan, they'll give it to you. I use a lot of other people's money whenever I'm doing these deals, and you can too. So if you find a good deal, you ask whoever you know, and then you go to the banks and things like that. So the banks and credit unions, they got guidelines that they have to follow before they can give you money. And some of those guidelines is you have to be on your job for 2 years. You can't be going from job to job and things like that. You got to have 2 years of stable income before a bank can lend you some money. And then you have to have a decent credit score. It need to be 580 to 640 or something in between there. If you don't have that, then it's going to be kind of hard. And then the last one is a down payment. So you got to have skin in the game is what they call it. So they're not just about to give you all of the money for a house. They want to make some profits just in case you don't pay. So you got to have a down payment. And these are some of the things that the banks require. And if you don't have them, some banks might turn you down. So the first time I did it, it was probably luck. The second time I did it, it was probably just a coincidence. And the third time, it became a pattern of what I was doing. So I'm offering you an opportunity to join my community where I'm about to have you buy your first property. Will it be luck for me? Like, do I know what I'm doing? I don't know. I did it a couple of times, so I want to see if I can get as many people as I can into their first investment property. We're not trying to buy the house on a hill. We're trying to make some extra income. If you want to join my community, just inbox me and let me know.